There's a guy named Steven Edwards, and he's a boxing trainer. Calls himself Bread Man. I know Steven, okay, and he is the trainer for boxer Julian Williams. So Friday after the weigh-in, I told Steven that I don't bet on boxing, but if I had some bread, get it, I'd bet the house on a draw. I hate when I do stuff on offline and don't share it in my videos, because then when I tell the story, people are like, yeah man, whatever. So Steven used to be at Boxing Talk, and he used to write in to a mailbag there, and then I think he's still cool with Boxing Talk, but now he has his own mailbag from time to time that he does on Boxing Scene as well as other websites. So I don't expect Steven to say anything about what I told him, but even if he does, he's the type of guy that he'll say, somebody told me to bet the draw. So you understand, he won't say any name. It's okay. But if he adds that story in his mailbag, you'll know that yours truly was that guy he's referring to. You know, many movies have subplots in them. You got the main plot of the movie, and then you have a subplot. And I wish I could think of a movie that everyone has seen when I talk about the subplot. But if you take a movie like Barbershop, which is a movie I didn't see, I read about it, figured I wouldn't like it, so I didn't watch it. But if you take the movie Barbershop, it's about a guy who can't keep his barbershop open that his father gave to him. So he can't borrow any money. I mean, the money's not coming in like it should. So what he winds up doing is selling the barbershop to a loan shark who wanted to turn it into a strip club. Afterwards, the guy realizes how important to the community the barbershop was, and so he tries to get the shop back. So the loan shark tells him he's going to have to pay double the amount that he sold it for in order to get it back. That's the plot. You know, what's going to happen? That's the plot. The subplot is, during the movie, one of his barbers gets accused of stealing an ATM machine, but it really wasn't the barber that did it. It was the barber's cousin. So since the barber has 2 strikes against him, a 3rd strike could get him life in prison. So what will happen? So at the end of the movie, you have 2 questions to answer. What happens to the barbershop? That's the plot. And what's going to happen to the barber accused of stealing the ATM machine? That's the subplot. So the subplot on Saturday night that has everyone up in arms is the scorecard turned in from Adelaide Bird. Now, her card was hideous, but don't let the subplot take your mind off of the plot, which was the fight itself. If you watch the fight on Box Nation or some other channel with less biased announcers, the commentary it won't sway you like HBO does a lot of fight fans. I guess I'm in the minority here, but I thought that Canelo won the fight. Yeah, right. Don't you believe it? I actually scored the fight like Kevin Kelly did. I had it. Kevin Kelly had it 117, 111 for Golovkin, and so did I. There was a swing round in there that you could have given to Canelo, so that would change my card to 116, 112. Listen, if your score was 116, 112, that means Canelo won 4 rounds and Golovkin won 4 rounds and then another 4 rounds. So he doubled him up, 8-4. That's not a close fight. It was a good fight. However, it was a clear unanimous decision, especially if you had it 116, 112. I don't even know where to start. So I guess what I'm saying is, don't just be mad at Adelaide Bird or her CNI dog. Be mad at Don Trella's 114 card. That's 6 rounds apiece, folks. I can't see 6 rounds that Canelo Alvarez won on Saturday night. Or if you want to say it the other way, I can't see 6 rounds Gennady Golovkin lost on Saturday night. Can't see it. If you look at what some people, so I guess they had a poll and they asked some people, so and 90%. Why it's only 90? I know 90% is a lot, but why only 90? Teddy Atlas 118, 110. Triple G. Brian Campbell 117, 111. GGG. Jack Rathborne from the UK, the Mirror 117, 111. Campbell's from CBS, Atlas is from ESPN. Harold Letterman, HBO 116, 112. Dan Raphael, ESPN 116, 112. Brian Graham, Guardian, UK 116, 112. Gareth Davies, The Telegraph, UK 116, 112. Amir Khan 116, 112. Matthew Macklin 116, 112. Last 2 guys, Khan and Macklin, picked I know Khan picked Canelo. Steve Lillis, Box Nation 116, 112. Bob Valine, USA Today 116, 112. Kevin McRae, Bleacher Report 116, 112. Sean Al-Shadi, MMA Fighting 116, 112. Ryan Frederick, Wrestling Observer 116, 112. Patrick Stumberg, MMA Mania 116, 112. Kevin Mitchell, The Guardian, UK 116, 113. So he had an even round. Jordan Breen, Sherdog 115, 112. Kevin Ioli, Yahoo 115, 113. And so on and so forth. I mean, you want to look at some of the boxers. Lennox Lewis, Golovkin. Trout, Austin Trout, Golovkin. Daniel Jacobs, Golovkin. Enzo Maccarinelli, Golovkin. Terrence Crawford, Golovkin. Sergio Martinez, Golovkin. Liam Smith, Golovkin. Peter Quillen, Golovkin. Liam Smith, Golovkin. O'Hara Davies, Golovkin. Luke Campbell, Golovkin. Dave Colwell, Golovkin. Badu Jack, Golovkin. Kevin Kelly, aforementioned, Golovkin. Dana White, Golovkin. Steve Kim, Golovkin. Doug Fisher, Golovkin. Sergey Kovalev, Golovkin. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Golovkin. What? Okay. Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy, 115, 113 Canelo. Bernard Hopkins, who has been shameful over the past 10 years, just for various reasons. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., 116, 112 for Canelo. Come on, man. What Roy Jones Jr., Kenny Porter, and Tommy Hearns were watching, I have no idea. They called it a draw. And then Adelaide Bird and her CNI dog, 118, 110. I'm not sure what the heck Don Trello was watching to give Canelo the 7th round. I mean, at least Adelaide Bird got that round right. Listen, it's either that she's inept or she's corrupt. Bob Bennett, the head of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, said she's definitely not corrupt. However, if she's been doing this for 20 plus years, I find it very hard for her to be inept, unless it's just old age. So which one is it? Well, just ask yourself which sport we're talking about. Ask yourself who pays the judges and gives them perks such as rental cars and their hotel rooms and money for food. Take a guess. Now, if your answer is, well, it's the State Athletic Commission, I mean, you can believe that. But if you think the promoter doesn't have a hand in the situation, well, let's go over the pre-fight strengths, weaknesses, and keys to victory that we talked about in the other video. We talked about Canelo's strengths. Hand speed, yes. Give him a check for that. Combination punching, well, somewhat. Mostly counters. Didn't do it enough. Power, yes. And G walked through all of that. All of that. He walked right through it. Canelo, another strength. Great boxer. Absolutely not. Not on Saturday night. He scored on pot shots, and he was on the run throughout the fight. Not boxing. You said you were going to knock Golovkin out and stand toe-to-toe. So why did you run then, pussy? And sorry to my sister and other listeners. I don't curse that much, but I'm about to do it again. You talked all that shit before the fight about what you were going to do, and then you ran. And that's why you were booed by the Mexicans after the fight. Listen, Gennady Golovkin has Russian blood in him. Kazakhstan, he's in Kazakhstan. You know, they broke Russia up into all these different countries. And when Canelo start talking in Spanglish, excuse me, I was gonna say something else, but when he was Spanglish, nah, when he was talking in Spanish, those Kazakhstans they don't understand what he's saying. The boos came from the Mexicans. Another strength, excellent counter puncher. Did well there, but not enough to win rounds in this fight. Great body puncher. Yes, lots of shots were low, but he went to the body throughout the fight. So I'll give Canelo a check on that one. Good defense. One thing I'll give Canelo is when he moved, he slipped Gennady's big right hand all night. Now, when G shortened the right hand up, he landed, but not with the killer force that he would had he got full extension of his right hand. So I'll give him a half a check on that. Great upper body and head movement. I'll give Canelo, I'll say a yes on that one. Give him a check. Throws a great uppercut and a better left hook. Well, he didn't throw the uppercut enough. I remember one instance it landed big for him in the 8th round. Canelo landed the more eye-catching shots, but not enough to win rounds. Fantastic jab. He did okay in this fight. Didn't use it enough. And a lot of times it was neutralized by Golovkin's jab. Last category, solid chin. You'll get no argument from me there. Golovkin didn't land the kill shot, but he hurt Canelo a couple of times. And the kid survived it. And his chin is solid. So give Canelo a check on that. Let's look at his weaknesses. Flat-footed. Well, Canelo was on a run so much during this fight that we can't accurately judge this category. Just can't. Another weakness, sometimes he winds up to throw the big punches and leaves himself wide open. He did a good job of not allowing this in the fight, so I'll give Canelo a check there. Stamina issues in some fights. Trout, Lara, Mayweather, catch weight. Let me tell you something. Saul Canelo Alvarez was a dead man walking, stamina-wise, from, I'm going to say maybe like the 8th round on. Probably a little earlier than that. And Gennady Golovkin knew that a garbage decision like this could happen if he didn't get the knockout, or at least a knockdown, and he let Canelo off the hook too many times. There's no other way to put it. That falls on Golovkin. He should have thrown more body shots. Let's look at Golovkin's strengths. Punching power. It was evident here. He didn't get the kill shot. But let me tell you this. Who fought differently than they usually do for 2/3 of this fight? Golovkin was the stalker. Was he? Or was Canelo flat-footed? So who fought better? Was it Golovkin the stalker or Canelo the flat-footed guy who put his track shoes on? I mean, have you ever seen Canelo move that much in a fight? If it was running when Lara did it against Canelo, then don't call it boxing in this fight. If you have trouble scoring fights, just watch the rounds and ask yourself, who controlled the fight? Golovkin made Canelo go everywhere that he wanted him to go. Golovkin came forward for about 10 of the 12 rounds. He controlled the fight, clearly. Great balance. Check. There was one off-balance moment that Golovkin had, but he just kind of got his feet twisted. Next strength for Golovkin, solid chin. Check. Remember that huge right hand Canelo landed in the 9th round? I mean, he wound it up. It should be playing on the video right now. Golovkin took it and didn't budge. Didn't have a facial expression change or anything. He kept walking Canelo down. And another big right cross straight down the pipe from Canelo in the 9th round. It was quick. So quick that you might miss it. If you have the fight on DVD or on demand or whatever, go to the 2-minute and 12 or 2-minute and 13 mark of round 10. Golovkin walked through it like it was a kiss on the cheek. I mean, those two shots in the 9th or 10th round would have dropped most middleweights. Or at least buzzed him to the point where they would have been in some trouble, and maybe you could have followed up and dropped it. It was right after Golovkin was off balance when the entire arena and everyone I was with thought he was hurt And then the HBO replay showed that it wasn't a punch by Canelo. It was just Golovkin's foot kind of not going the right way. Another strength. Knows how to cut off the ring. Check. Did that all night. Underrated boxing skill. Check. They were on display. Remember, I'll take 2 or 3 shots to land my one shot. Early on, that's the old Mike Tyson formula. And last strength was the best jab in boxing. Check. Golovkin's jab was extremely effective. But it wasn't as on the money as I thought it would be on Saturday night. So you give some credit to Canelo on that, and some credit to the old man's reflexes beginning to slip. I mean, that's a fact. Weaknesses for Golovkin. The first one was he gets hit more than necessary sometimes. Check. It happened. Hey man, sometimes he boxes. Other times he boxes a little and mixes it up. On Saturday he had to go for it. And that's the cost you pay to keep your titles. So, second weakness, he headhunts sometimes and loses his technique. Well, Golovkin didn't lose his technique on Saturday night, but he definitely should have went to the body. Another weakness was his age. He's almost 36 years old. Well, I'll give that a check. There were some signs of him being an old man. However, what people saw early on in the fight, where the people I was with were saying he's scared, he's fighting like he's scared, which is laughable. I think it was the result of him unable to pull the trigger at times. Reflexes. He's getting older. Sometimes you just can't pull the trigger. Number 4, another weakness. He's never fought in Vegas. Well, now that he has that one under his belt, and if he thought that he needed a knockout on Saturday to win, if you rematch this guy, you might need a knockout just to get another draw. I think he knows that now. And the last weakness, he doesn't have the fastest hands. Well, you check. Well, he doesn't need the fastest hands. He's 37-0-1 and should be 38-0, and nobody has been able to beat those slow hands they say he has. So that's that. So let's look at what our keys to victory was. For Alvarez to win, he's going to have to use his faster hands to get to Golovkin. Check. He did that. Secondly, he's going to have to keep throwing combinations to back G up and force him to reset. Maybe 2 rounds he did that, so no check there. He also must slip the jab and counter. He did sometimes, but not much. I think Golovkin's jab bothered him. No check. Land punches early on to make a statement. I think that Canelo's biggest shots came in the middle of the fight. Maybe not so much early on. Next was use his jab. Canelo used his jab somewhat. Test Golovkin's body. He did this. Check. Stay off the ropes and keep it in the middle of the ring. Absolutely not. Didn't do it. Throw combinations. Canelo did in spots. Stay inside of Golovkin. Didn't happen. And the last key was throw the uppercut. Didn't do it enough. For Golovkin to win, establish the jab early. Copy. Get in proper range to land the big shots. Copy. It did take a while for him to warm up though. Force Canelo backwards. Copy. Got it done. Be active. Don't let Canelo steal the rounds. It's a golden boy card. Copy. I think he did that. Lastly, be aware of Canelo's counter shots. Golovkin did somewhat. That made him hesitant early and even at some points later in the fight. So let's look at some other thoughts. I thought Kenny Bayless was okay. He broke them up on the inside too quickly a few times. I wanted to see them fight on the inside because I know Canelo can do it. I wanted to see what G would have done because I favor Canelo on the inside, but Bayless never let it happen. The HBO crew is deteriorating. Max Kellerman continues his downward slide. Jim Lampley relies too much on the punch numbers instead of what he sees with his own eyes. Roy Jones is flip a coin. Roy Jones is Roy Jones. Well, you know what Roy Jones would have did in that situation was, man, please. I actually agreed with Harold Letterman's card for the first time in about 10 years. I think he got it right on this one. And he's about the only thing I could say about the HBO crew. Watched the Box Nation telecast with, it was Kevin Kelly and might have been Doug Fisher, if I'm not mistaken. I was impressed with that Canelo lasted in this fight. He was fading. The movement and the lack of Gennady really stepping on it saved him. I really thought Gennady should have pressed more. However, let me just say this. I'm not Golovkin. I haven't fought 400 times in the amateurs and the pros combined. I don't know what it's like to train camp after camp at almost 36 years old and be fighting in a super fight after struggling to make weight. So I don't know how his body felt. I don't know how much he had in the tank, but if he would have turned it up slightly more, I think he would have gotten to this kid. If I'm Gennady Golovkin, I try to make the Billy Joe Saunders fight as soon as possible and go for glory. Become undisputed. Then move up and, you know, take on a Gilberto Ramirez or a David Benavidez and win a belt or two there and retire. In a prior video, I said that Golovkin was old school. Old school guys fought more than they trained. Boxers today train more than they fight. So they were better boxers. They were better fighters back then because they didn't abuse their bodies with all the time off between fights, eating wrong, gaining weight, etc., etc. That's what happens when you only fight once or twice a year. Then you spend your entire training camp trying to make weight. Old school guys, they fought so often that they didn't have to worry about these problems, these issues. Well, Golovkin is an old school fighter. He's a throwback guy. He fought 4 times one year, a few years ago, and then he was going to fight 5 times the following year, but his father died. And their custom is to have 40 days of mourning. So as he was mourning his father, that kind of stopped his plans inside the ring. Then Daniel Jacobs made him wait 6 months to fight. Then Canelo makes him wait another 6 months to fight. Notwithstanding the fact that this fight should have happened 1.5 years earlier. So that's just not about inactivity for Golovkin. It's age and inactivity. That's not how he fights. And that's why his stomach was so flabby at the media day. And the word I got, I mentioned it already, from someone who knows the inside is that it was a struggle for the old man to make the weight. If you saw him on at the weigh-in, his face was kind of drawn. He had those lines going down his, like, on each side of his nose to like his mouth. I mean, he was drawn. So if these guys would have fought in May that just passed and it was a draw, then they could have fought 4 months later in September and everything would have been good. But they fought in September. So now you're talking about a rematch 8 months from now. This cat will be closer to 37 than he is 36 by then. So he might be a dead man at the weight. I've seen this story play out many times in boxing. The young guy is juiced up for the rematch and he either beats the old man up over 12 rounds or gets a corner stoppage by the trainer, or the fighter himself just quits on a stool. I mean, look at Oscar De La Hoya versus Manny Pacquiao. Look at Ricky Hatton versus Costa Tszyu. And that's if Canelo takes the rematch in May. If he does it next September, after Golovkin beats a Billy Joe Saunders, then it will be for all the belts, the IBF, the WBC, the WBA, the IBO, the WBO, and the ring belt. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in September, but maybe they both fight in May. It wouldn't shock me if they had a split country doubleheader show with Golovkin taking on Saunders on his home turf, and then Canelo facing like a David Lemieux or an Andy Lee or something. Canelo Alvarez versus Jamal Charlo matchup would be a nice doubleheader to Golovkin Saunders, but Al Haymon won't do business with Oscar De La Hoya. Now, if they do come back and fight in May, the rematch, or if they have the rematch next September, and Golovkin somehow does not look like a skeleton on fight night, or on the weigh-in, I should say, he beats Canelo. Even at a year older than he is now, he beats Canelo. Or I should say a year older in age. I mean, there's 35, like your birthday, and then there's early 35, and then there's medium 35, and then there's late 35, which you call 36. Well, as I stated, if he's closer to 37 than he is 36, and if somehow he doesn't look like a skeleton, put your money on the old man. You know, everybody talks about how Golovkin breaks people down and beats them up, but his fighting style wears you down mentally. He keeps coming and coming and coming. And you can see the look on Canelo's face and his body language in some rounds say, you could see it. And it was saying, come on, man, give me a bit of a break here. I'm tired of moving left and right for 3 minutes. I mean, that's you'll see it a couple of times when he escaped and he kind of huffed, took a little breath, a deep breath, and then kept it moving. And you could see, like, come on, when is this bell gonna ring? If I'm Triple G, I don't let this kid hold my career up because I don't have time. Time is the enemy right now. Triple G can get 2 fights in 8 months. Fight again in January, Billy Joe Saunders, and then do the rematch in May. If they're not working with you, move on. Just move on. You know, in closing, let me just say this. It's pretty ironic, but I remember a prime Oscar De La Hoya fighting an old man named Pete Whitaker. Okay? Many people thought Whitaker won the fight, and Oscar promised because it was controversial, Oscar promised Whitaker a rematch when they were in the ring. Well, that rematch never happened. People believed Oscar, but he didn't honor his word. Now, I remember when Oscar was asked if the judges would favor him in a fight against Whitaker. And Oscar said, I think so. Ultimately, that's boxing. That's boxing. It's all politics. It's all about the money. What the WBC sees is that I'm a young fighter. If I win the title, obviously, I make more money than Whitaker or anybody else. And it's true. And I'll say it again. He said he thinks so, on if the judges might favor him in the fight. Unfortunately, that's boxing. It's all politics. It's all about money. What the WBC sees is that I'm a young fighter. If I win the title, I obviously make more money than Whitaker or anyone else. And Oscar was right. And now he has his cash cow is his version of himself. Don't be surprised if history repeats itself and we see a different opponent for Saul CANELO Alvarez in May of 2018. We'll catch you in the next one.